Hey there, Ari Menard, Mitriyoff, Monks of the Way, and today I'm over here at Starbucks. Today is, How should a monk study and pondering meditation? And if you're looking into secular Buddhism, maybe even secular Buddhist monkhood, absolutely something you want to know. Absolutely. And first, I want to make the point, if you're going to study, you must have a fundamental basis. Most people will go sequentially, and I can argue that the way they make the teachings of Buddha saying the sequence is not actually correct. But, close enough. Absolutely close enough, I guess. But in the particulars, you see it. Certainly you see, over the long run, as you study the teachings of Buddha, you see them going from a very fundamental basis, the words being very methodical and thought out, being almost identical in Sanskrit and Pali, and easy to translate. But later on, you see that it changes, and the way words are used definitely changes. The themes change. Some things, the focuses change. It just changes. So, in your study, you're going to have to take things with a grain of salt, but you're going to need a fundamental basis. I would go with the Four Truths. I would go with the Path of Eight, being a circle of things that goes around. You go around, rather. And that's the way that the cycles that you go through in order to accept truth. And things align. Things have a productivity. Things have a correlation. Things have a what's the word I'm thinking of? A synergy? Nah, not the word I wanted, but we'll continue. Those fundamental teachings that you look at,
I know, but it's probably not that many.
Definitely you want to go through that, but any of the teachings you go through, how are you going to understand it? Are you going to just read through it and go, oh, well, it does or it doesn't click? And, yeah. Well, if you're a casual Buddhist, yeah. If you are more intent, of a lay follower of Buddha, or a secular Buddhist monk, for sure, you're going to want to meditate on things. You're going to want to ponder these things. And I would go to pondering meditation as a basic type of meditation, where you think about exactly what was said in the teaching, and then you think relationships. So there are points of derivation. One thing makes you think another associated thing, makes you think another associated thing. And that's as far as I would go. And try to make connections. So you're branching out, and you're fully pondering each node, I guess, as you would put it, and making those connections, branching trees out, making connections between those things. Let's start with something simple. It's the Four Truths, and life is suffering. Okay. What does life mean? What does suffering mean? What do those things mean in this context? What were the words used? What could those words mean? When you look at the Sanskrit, you look at the Pali, and if you're intent, if you're not, you don't, probably. If you're less intent, you're still pondering these things, though. What do these words mean? What do they mean in the context of the other teachings that I've read from Buddha? What was he going towards there? What was his theme? You go, suffering has cause. Okay, well, what's a cause? And once again, suffering, and then again, life. And branches from there, and how do they connect? And it seems, at a moment when you think of that kind of thing, it seems simple and obvious, and in a moment of that, it seems difficult, convoluted, muddy, unclear. Just depends. And when you go through this pondering meditation, it's going to, appreciate you, Jesse, Christy, and Nick. Appreciate you on a Monk Monday. I'm talking about the pondering meditation, talking about how a monk should study. Specifically, a monk would want to look at words in the teachings in Sanskrit and Pali and see what they mean, and especially key parts. Even if you're more casual, your intent, lay follower, you want to look at key parts like, the Four Truths, life is suffering. Well, is that really a fair translation? People dispute that. I say yes, but you need to add more to it to understand. The word is specifically used so that we know that it means an unknown level of suffering, and that it could be ultimate bone-crushing suffering, or it could be dissatisfaction. It just depends. Where the word comes from has a context that's absolutely important, and that's the wobbling of a wagon's wheel. Back then they used to hammer the wagon's wheel on the axle, and if it started to wobble, that wheel could break. It could stop that side of the wagon. If it was a four-wheel wagon, which was pretty normal, one of the front wheels locks up. That might flip your whole thing over. It might kill you. Might damage one of the horses. The horses might get ripped off the wagon and run away. Your goods could be damaged or destroyed. Absolute freaking disaster. And so, without the proper context, knowing what that means, that teaching is not going to be as useful for you. If you don't study, you're not going to know. A cursory understanding of it, a very basic beginner's understanding of it, is great to start out. You're new to Buddhism and you want to know about this stuff, and you just blow through it and you look and see what people are saying about it popularly. Okay. Well, you have to know what's being said about the teaching popularly is not going to be the most in-depth, not going to be the most comprehensive, not going to be from the people that really understand it the best. It's not going to be popular. There's a common way that things are digestible to the public, digestible to the common person in society, and the truth of it, the raw truth of it, that's not what it is. That is not what it is. And I don't think it's ever going to be. That's the way it is. So if a person's really going to study, they're going to have to know some things. That wagon wheel context, people don't run around in wagons normally anymore. I mean, there's the Amish Mennonites in America that want to use old-timey technology, and they're familiar with wagons, and it would mean a lot more to them probably. But once you understand, I think everybody knows what a wagon is, and that if one of those wheels, fell off or locked up and flipped the wagon over, it'd be a freaking disaster. And once you tell them about it, they can comprehend that, a wagon was oftentimes someone's full livelihood. One wagon of goods destroyed, your life was destroyed. Your family was going to be hungry for months, having almost nothing to eat. It was freaking serious. Life was really freaking hard back then also. I mean, you got injured, there was a decent chance you were going to die. You stepped on something, it went into your foot, you got a cut on your hand, you might die of infection. It was really very, very common. And you might do everything right and still get sick and die. It was not that uncommon. Women in childbirth, you had less than a 50-50 chance that you were going to live. In some places definitely, a little over 50%, but, 50-50, I mean, craps. I mean, I can't imagine being a woman back then, knowing how many women were dying in childbirth and from childbirth, and deciding to have a kid. Well, at least not refusing to make it possible to have a kid, let's just say. I go off on a little bit of tangents here, but, I'm just hanging out with the monk on a Monk Monday. Robert's here. Appreciate you, Robert. Talking about the how a monk should study and pondering meditation. Let me go back to the pondering meditation, because, you have points of derivation from something that you're thinking about, and you stay within it. So maybe I think of life, and that makes me, for some reason, think of fish, and I think of a fish as life. And I've thought of fish, so now I'm thinking of fishing. And so I'm thinking of all those things together. How do they relate? And how do they relate to the things I was thinking of before? The other three things, maybe. The other one thing. But you have to not go farther than that. You have to have some, maybe you only go one note out, one area out, on to the next thing. Maybe you think of life, you think of fish, you think of suffering, you think of fish, and that means fishing. And that's the thing those things have in common. So you've really only got 2 points out, but you have a relationship to think about also there. And it might seem difficult to keep a person's mind that focused on it and sustained also. We're talking about doing this for at least 10 minutes. Reasonably, if you really are doing this as a monk, I would say 30 minutes. You're at least doing this on one particular topic. So we're talking about, the first part of the Four Truths, for example, life is suffering. You're thinking of everything to do with life is suffering for 30 minutes. That's all you're thinking about. And you're going to come up with some really powerful stuff, some really insightful stuff. You're going to stretch your mind this way. Where the casual Buddhist, it's not that intent on it, not really a student of Buddha. They, just look at things the way they think they are right off the bat. And what we're going for is not looking at things the way we want them to be, and not looking at things the way we understand them to be, but the way they really are. And if you're thinking of things the way you want them to be, you're going to read teachings of Buddha. For example, today, somebody had a post, and I looked, and it was something about time travel. And it was... makes me a little giddy, because I know someone is seeing this now or will see it that knew the post. And I see Hannah. So anyway, the time travel post, and the person said, oh yeah, time not being linear is in the teachings of Buddha. Like, it mentions intention, and intention drives things, drives karma. And there's life and birth and death, and then birth and life and death again, and it goes over and over. So it's not linear. And I'm like, no, absolutely, the teaching does not do that. It reinforces that it's absolute and linear in many places. It doesn't go out of order. There's an absolute, definite order, and there's actual teachings of Buddha about the order of the universe and how things are sequential, the sequential nature of reality. You're really missing it. And I don't know if that person, I should have quoted individual teachings of Buddha, I guess. If that person is interested, they're going to follow up, and they're going to try to figure it out. And if they can't, maybe they'll get back with me, and I would share those teachings and go over them. But what that person is doing, my point is, that person is looking at those teachings with the foggy lens of what they want to believe, the way they want to think things are. And so they're looking at it and go, oh, it must mean this, it must mean that. They're not really trying to figure it out. They're trying to make it fit. And I don't know if people realize they're doing this most of the time or not. But a lot of people do that. And then there's the way we understand things. and so a person may understand the way they understand it, time isn't linear. And so then they look at that teaching and once again it fits. So they don't need to find proof. It just backs up what they were saying. It doesn't prove it because they've already proved it in their mind. And, this substantiates it. It just goes, oh, well, Buddha's got my back because he's just saying the same thing. You just see it that way. You don't see that it could mean something, to learn it, to think that you're correct in a theory in the first place. It's a solved thing. So there's a difference between seeing things the way we want them to be, the way we want to see them, and seeing things the way we understand them. And I hope I'm making that clear. But you want to go through and use fact-based reasoning. You want to go through and understand the context of things. And so, if you're just going to be a casual Buddhist and you're not really going to be into it, you're not really going to be a student of Buddha, I'd say go with the popular views on things and popular teachers, popular monks, and take a look what they have to say, especially monks. But, there's plenty of monks and scholars that are absolutely backwards ass about some stuff. Sorry. Obviously there has to be, right? I mean, if you look at a percentile, you wouldn't think 100%, right? And this goes all the way back to the original canon, when they decided the teachings of Buddha, having people read one after the other, one person after the other, and deciding the one that they liked best, the recitation they liked best, and going ahead and using that one. So, they had some debates, but those people were biased too, right? And those people had a lot of seeing things the way they want to see them and seeing things the way they understand them, and cultural influences about things that, they were raised maybe devout, religiously Hindu, worshiping one of the gods, doing things, and that obviously had something to do with them. And, maybe they've deconstructed that old religion and they've come to a more fact-based reasoning on things. But certain ways of things and attitudes are going to bleed through. You might spend your whole lifetime trying to get rid of some things that were really put into you since you were born, to the time when you were able to start deconstructing things, a manner of thinking. And I could go into stuff like that, but I don't want to get too far out of the topic. Let's see what we got here. Confirmation bias. Yes, that is a good term for what I'm talking about. You seek out things that confirm what you already thought a lot. People do, anyway. I'm not saying you necessarily. So when we go to study, we're going to also need some discipline. So, you might not need the discipline where you study every Monday, Saturday, whatever. You might see a monk Monday or a sit with me Saturday, and you might not meditate that day. Maybe you don't have that discipline. But when I say discipline, I don't want you to think I'm saying you don't have control of yourself. I'm saying maybe that's not part of your discipline, your life practice. And maybe you actually don't have the self-control to be doing it regularly. Don't know where you're at on that. But a monk, yeah, you should be doing that regularly. So you run into some stuff and it seems like you're learning something. There's something to be learned there, and you pursue it. You don't see the unicorn, the dragon, and not grab it. You don't see it running away and just watch it run. You chase it. You chase it down and you get it. As best you can. Why would you be doing anything else? If you're just going to haphazardly, yippee, run around in life, you're not going anywhere. I mean, you're slowly going to edge in a direction, but it's going to be almost imperceivable. You're going to be like dead grass blowing in the wind. Blow this way, blow that way, going with the flow, instead of making some sort of effort. If you're going to make some sort of effort, do it. I mean, at least give it a fair shot, right? So I've got a decent amount of people at the moment trying to ordain as secular Buddhist monks, but I'm not seeing any real discipline in these people currently. I'm not going to name names, and I'm not trying to certainly put anybody down, but I'm saying this because if you think, well, I'm a secular Buddhist, but I'm not really that into it, maybe I should feel bad about that. Not really. You are where you are. You're doing what you do, and those people that are trying to ordain, it's designed to last at least 2 years to fully ordain. But you know what? You take your own time. While the minimum is probably 2 years, maybe you never do achieve it. Maybe you never do achieve it. It's the journey. It's a journey more so than a destination. So, there wouldn't be any shame in taking your whole life and still not having attained it. How was your journey? Let's see what we got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. Appreciate you. So context of study, regularity of study, depth of study, and then pondering the meditation of the study. Those are integral parts of a life practice that has this kind of being a student of Buddha in it. If you're not a student of Buddha, I'd say consider it. I mean, give it a shot. Anyway, I've been on this long enough. I'm going to try to edit it down to something small enough that people won't be scared to watch it. I appreciate you coming in on Monk Monday, having a minute with me for the real, and as a just throwing it out there. If you do want to donate something to the Monks of the Way, then you would want to do it through PayPal, Monks of the Way, or Zelle. The email address, monksoftheway@gmail.com, or the phone number would bring it up for Monks of the Way, which is 402-681-9608. Anyway, I appreciate you. I want the teachings of Buddha to bless you, and I want you to keep in mind every single day that it's a great day to be alive. Thanks.